Hi there, it's Sano. Today's webinar is on professional development, making a case for it in your school. I want to talk about a few things today, and here's what I'm going to sum up. Firstly, I want to have a look at the issues that are impacting on education, on teachers, and on schools. They dovetail and weave in together, and I want to look at all three of them. I'll then touch on today's classroom, the changes that we've experienced as we move in well and truly into the 21st century, teaching and learning. That brings us on to active learning processes as opposed to a passive style of learning, and the benefits that we can see for our students. Lastly, I want to touch on the opportunities for further growth, both for our students and for ourselves, and the case in point being that we really can't achieve any of that without proper professional development in that area. So let's go. Let's look at the major issues that are impacting on education and schools and on teachers today. I've listed a few of them here, and you can see no particular order, but obviously the big one is all about political decisions. The Gonski Review, NAPLAN is constantly in our news with external testing. Then result is our measurements and our standards. The key issues for us as a society and as a nation is that we have undoubtedly declining standards and declining participation rates in those major areas of learning, and they're a cause for great concern. We have a look at the impact of major issues on teachers. I guess we're in a process of constant change and have been for so many years. And that generates some negativity, it's true, and change fatigue. It's a complex job, and it's a complex world in the classroom, particularly with the increase of compliance, the challenges of disengaged population in front of you, or cohort in front of you, and a profession that has done its best to set some standards with accreditation, but then that is causing some concern for people. On the whole, it's a profession that sadly is still feeling a sense of being undervalued. If we have a look at the major issues that are affecting schools and on a daily basis, these are the things that keep principals up at night, I guess. Funding is a big one. The continued disparity between schools, between systems, resources and funding, that obviously has an impact on just what schools can deliver for their students. It's true that the profession is also in a rate of change, in a state of change. There are many wonderful teachers in our profession, but while we do have significant numbers, profession is high on quantity. The quality isn't always there. We have a higher attrition rate with our more experienced teachers. You know, the other area that is growing in concern for us is the impact of mental health and well-being on young people. Over 33%, over a third of all young people aged between 15 and 19 say that their mental health is their number one concern. That obviously has an impact on their education, on their learning, on their achievement, on their state of mind. There's been a lot of change. There's been a lot thrown at the problems. The reality is that despite that, a decade of change, a couple of decades of change, there really hasn't been any great improvement in our benchmark results internationally. So, yeah, we're a society that is really struggling with our education standards. If I had to look at what the major issues are for me, I think I'd sum them up in the following three slides. They revolve around engagement, and I guess it's an issue of disconnect between teachers and students. Over half of our students say that they are not engaged in class. Over half lose engagement, and that naturally impacts on their achievement. Not only that, a third of us as teachers trying to deal with that find ourselves extremely stressed as a result. It's a double-edged sword, trying to re-engage students in the classroom, and yet we ourselves are suffering from the anxiety that causes. While professional development and interaction with our peers is obviously an area that is going to help with that, almost half of us as a profession actually don't have the exposure and the access to that, sadly. So we're really struggling with our education at the moment. If I want to concentrate on just one area where I think that is really telling in the classroom, there has to be a solution, and the solution is probably more change. So the point I make here is that maybe the Gonski Review is right after all. Maybe we really do have to radically change the way we teach, the way our schools are structured, so that we can make really genuine change in our teaching and learning. Well, to highlight that even further, let's have a look at our classroom. I reckon this is what my classroom and probably what many of my colleagues' classrooms look like on a daily basis. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's lots of activity, there's lots of different styles of communication and learning. It's just that we don't always connect, because the reality is students want relatable content, they want the tools to do it with, they don't want to listen to talking heads, they want access, they want it anywhere, anytime, and I guess what many of us are delivering doesn't quite cut it anymore. And when we spend so much time on things that don't matter, here are the things that we don't get enough time to actually do in class. I won't read them all out, but have a look at them, maybe discuss them with your colleagues. Pick one of them where you think that you really are struggling with. These are the things that really matter to us as teachers, but sadly we don't have enough time for. So I'll come back soon after you've had an opportunity to talk about one of these or more of these with your colleagues. Have you had an opportunity to workshop that a little bit with your colleagues? I'm sure some really good examples and ideas came out. You know, the most positive thing that I can relay in this short webinar is to you is that you should feel empowered, and you should feel that there are opportunities available to you to learn and to keep learning more about your craft. New ways of learning, as our students are experiencing, create for us a new way of teaching. We can free up so much time in the classroom if we approach our classroom a little bit differently, and it gives us a great opportunity to know our students better. So it brings me on to this idea of active learning as opposed to a passive style. This different paradigm gives our students more ownership of their learning, more empowerment. It provides in our classroom more focus on them rather than us. It really optimizes the time we spend together. We can be far more creative as teachers. And, well, the more that we do that, the better our feedback gets for them, the better our feedback is for them, the better our relationships are with our students, the more engaged they're going to be. Just to bring it all to a close, I don't think we can achieve all of that or any of that without being in a position of learning ourselves. So professional development for me is the key to all this. The power of constantly learning, putting yourself in a position of the student is vital. So look, let's recap what I've presented today. I've covered a fair few areas. Today's presentation has looked at the issues that are impacting on education, on teachers, and on schools, and the interaction of the three. I've had a look at what today's classroom looks like. I've tried to look at active learning processes and the benefits that you find from those, as opposed to passive learning. So that real paradigm shift and the opportunities that it creates for us, both for our students and for us. And at the end of the day, it's all about empowerment for us and engagement for our students. So look, I hope it sparked a few ideas for you, and I hope it sparked you some thoughts about where your next professional development will come from. If you want to get in touch with me and talk about these further, I'd love to have a chat with you. Here's my contact details. Talk to you soon. Thanks very much for listening.